for after this short virtual lunch break. So now we have to start with our second session. So let me introduce to you the speaker two, Dr. Ravikant. Dr. Ravikant is working as an assistant professor in Department of Mechanical Engineering at PDPU Gandhinagar. Dr. Ravikant has completed his PhD degree from IIT Gandhinagar in January 2020 in the area of active fluid flow control. His research interests are broadly computational fluid dynamics, advanced fluid mechanics, aerial robotics, control theory, fluid flow control, flow instability, numerical methods for thermofluid problems, hydrodynamics. He has received his bachelor degree from IIT Madras in aerospace engineering in 2008. He served as a design engineer in Taneja Aerospace and Aviation Limited in 2009. He has completed his MTech from IIT Kharagpur in mechanical system design in 2012. His master thesis work was on design, dynamics, and control of autonomous underwater vehicle. He later worked as an assistant manager in Pinnacle Infotech Solutions, Durgapur. So I personally welcome Dr. Ravikant. Now, I personally invite Dr. Ravikant to start the second session that is dedicated to MATLAB. So all the participants are again requested to put your queries in the chat box and it will be answered at the end of this session. So over to you, Dr. Ravi.
Thank you, Dr. Simran, for introducing me. Good afternoon, all. Myself, Ravi Kant. I will be actually taking the session on MATLAB, basically, and my session would constitute basically in two segments. The first segment would constitute the real problem which I am going to tackle with MATLAB, that is this wet flow problem and wave propagation. Wave propagation, kind of, you can say it's a toy problem, but this wet flow is basically a real life problem. You can actually see the flow scenario of wet flow in most of the engineering applications, such as journal bearing. You can actually approximate the flow as wet flow in your journal bearing problems. Basically, in the first segment, I would talk about the formulation of governing equations of wet flow problem and wave propagation and its analytical solution. Then we will talk about why numerical methods are actually will come into picture, because in most of the cases for transient analysis, we are not able to seek the analytical solution, so to say. So for that, we actually need some sort of numerical or computational help from CFD. And the next segment I would talk about is basically I'll talk about mostly the basics of MATLAB. I'll cover basics of MATLAB first, and then I will go into the details of numerical solution through MATLAB for actual wet flow problem that I'm going to pose, and the second problem, the wave propagation method. So I would anticipate that most of you are well aware of MATLAB, but some of you might not be. But no worries, I will also try to do the hands-on on MATLAB here itself. If you guys have MATLAB, you can, alongside with me, you can actually see what I'm doing, and you can actually side by side, you can also do that. And those who don't have MATLAB, no worries. You can see my screen, and you can actually take up the case very easily. So let's start with the first problem. So the first problem is is called as wet flow problem. In the wet flow problem, how it has been posed is there are two infinite sized plates. There is an upper plate and there is a bottom plate. And what we do in this particular flow situation, we drag this particular bottom plate with some constant velocity u, and the spacing between these two plates are some finite size spacing. Basically our aim is to find the flow profile that would constitute this flow scenario. So basically, I would like to know what my u velocity as a function of y and time. Okay, so let's come to the analytical solution of the simple steady wet flow problem. So which actually, Dr. Simran, this particular waiting room keeps on annoying me. Can I stop that somehow?
So let me talk to admin department. So
Hide floating meetings. Okay, now
yeah.
I've done that. Okay, fine. So basically, this problem can be considered as a typical fluid mechanics problem, which would encompass, or which could be associated with the unsteady Navier-Stokes equation along with the continuity equation. This is my Navier-Stokes equation, and this is my continuity equation. So well enough, I have already told that since this is a large plate, these two plates are large, you will have no v velocity and w velocity. It's Dr. Simran, it keeps on coming. Can we do something for that?
I just I'm just talk to admin department. So I hope it will be not occur again.
Okay.
So you continue, sir. You continue.
Okay. So basically, our idea is that my u velocity will be non-zero here, because I am seeking my u velocity profile in y and t. So with these two assumptions, as v is equal to 0 and w is equal to 0, that is y velocity and the z axis velocity is 0. So these two particular terms goes away, and we are left with du by dx is equal to 0 with continuity equation. So which tells me that u must be a function of either y or z. I can purely say that. Now let's come to the x momentum equation, that is your x momentum Navier-Stokes equation, so to say. So in this you can see that du by dx is 0 from this equation. You can apply here. V is 0, w is 0. I've already assumed that my flow is like this. I am only considering my flow to be there will be only u velocity that is present in this flow scenario. Also, the simple steady quiet flow. The term simple steady means you will not be having any pressure term over here. So that is also I am taking to be 0 for the simplicity of the problem. Although in real scenarios that might not be the case. Again, these second order derivatives are also 0. So basically all my convective terms and all these dissipation terms, which is in x and z, are tending to be 0. So we are left with this particular equation. Dou u by dou x is equal to mu times, mu is the kinematic viscosity of the fluid, dou 2u by dou y square. So you are left with this unsteady term over here, left hand side, and right hand side you have a dissipation term, which is in the derivative is in y. So this particular equation is a parabolic differential equation. So we can actually so why this is important to know whether which classification your partial differential equation falls into, because that will affect your solution procedure and the numerical method that you are choosing. So basically this is your parabolic differential equation, and we have a certain textbook technique to find how to tell that particular differential equation is a parabolic differential equation or not. Basically we do something like this. B square minus 4ac, we do that. We'll not go into details. You can find it in any textbook, and if it is equal to 0, the things are to be in parabolic in nature. So once we know that it's parabolic in nature, now we are ready to go with the numerical solution. Again, the motto of this particular problem is to find the numerical solution of this particular flow field with these boundary conditions. These boundary conditions are said to be, so since I have second order differential equation, so I need two boundary conditions in space and one initial condition in time. So these are the boundary conditions and initial condition what I would like to incorporate for this particular problem. Since you can see that u at 0, the plate is being moved, and there are no slip So there are no slip conditions that is imposed on the system. So the fluid next to the plate will also move with u velocity, and at u is equal to h, at this particular h height at the upper plate, the velocity is 0 all the time. Similar way we can define the initial conditions as well. So now let's talk about the analytical solution which we can get out from this particular equation. So this is your particular parabolic differential equation. So in analytical solution, there are two ways you can find the analytical solution. So the full analytical solution includes transient solution, but it is very hard to solve analytically by hand. You can see there are exponential terms, there are sinusoidal terms. So we can actually assume this solution and we can go ahead, but it will be very cumbersome. So that is why numerical techniques come into picture, and we'll talk about how to do the numerical computation out of this particular differential equation. So since a transient solution is hard to seek, so what we will do, no worries, we'll take up the case as my solution. I want to seek it as steady state solution that can be found easily with no time. How? So in steady state solution, your unsteady term would go to 0. That is my assumption, because at steady state there are no transient terms available for the flow. What does it physically mean? It means the flow, we are allowing enough time to settle down the flow at infinite time. Okay, so basically there are no transient terms or unsteady terms present in the system, and that is how we are going to seek the solution now in steady framework. So in steady state, we will have we will be keeping with only this particular diffusion term to be 0. Integrating twice, we can get this particular linear equation with unknown coefficients C1 and C2, and this is linear in nature. You can see that it's linear. So applying boundary condition here, because initial condition will not be applied here because I've already thrown out my unsteady term. So the steady state solution comes out to be something like this. This is linear in nature, and you can see that when I put my y is equal to 0, you will get uy is equal to u, capital U, and when we put y is equal to h, we get 0. That has also validated my initial assumptions, what we have started with. So you can see the steady solution looks something like this. The profile at infinite times, when the flow has been settled, it would look something like this. It would be a linearly decreasing velocity profile you will get in this form. But yes, as far as fluid mechanics is concerned, we are happy with this. Okay, but we are not happy. Why? Because we actually need to get the transient solutions, and that is very cumbersome to achieve. So basically, transient solution, you should get these red lines at intermediate times. When my t is equal to 0, this particular black line would be my first. There is nothing is happening. At t is equal to more than t is equal to 0, you will get the profile like this. It keeps on you keeps on increasing your time. You will get this particular transient solution if you increase with time. So this is what I wanted to get from my numerical computation, and this is how we are going to do in this particular 1.5 hour session. And I'm actually going to code this problem in a MATLAB in front of you, and we'll see how this goes. So before moving into the actual numerical computation, we need to first understand the slight basics about the numerical procedures that I would like to follow. So in the numerical approach, the first thing you are going to do is going to discretize your system, your flow domain. Okay, so I'm going to, so since my variables are y and time. So this left, so the bottom thing is my time nodes, and the left hand side we have space discretization. So this is an upper plate, this is an lower plate, and I am going to discretize. I'm going to describe what does the discretization means first of all. So the discretization means the continuous solutions are made up of discrete values at these particular nodes. We assume that these particular nodes, these discrete nodes, will have particular values at these particular nodes. We have certain values, and we are going to connect those values, and we will get some solution. So lesser the again, we have already talked. Mr. Anirudh Kulkarni has already talked about the grid generation and the fine meshing and all sorts of things. So unless and until we are going to make this domain very close to your actual solutions, we will not get the convergence enough. So what we try to do, we will try to make this discretization as small as possible, but again at the cost of your computation time. It will increase your computation time. You have to keep a trade-off between these two. Okay, so this is my space discretization, and right hand side you will have time discretization. I will have, since I have two variables here, independent variables, dt and dy. So again, let me go through the basic nomenclature here. So these nomenclature, I would like to define my variables in u letter with n superscript and I subscript, where I subscript will denote my number, the nodes, the nodes at which I'm working at. Okay, let's suppose I is equal to 1, I'm working at here. I is equal to 2, I'm working here. I is equal to 3, I'm working here. I'm here, and so. And when I go from n is equal to 1 to some time, so basically I'm actually traversing right. Okay, fair enough. Then what I will do again, so there are, so this again, so once I have talked about this numerical discretization, let me talk about the several differentiation schemes that are available. So there are three widely used numerical difference schemes that are available, namely finite difference approach, finite element approach, and finite volume approach. So this finite difference approach is basically a mathematical construct only, and finite volume and finite element are actually associated with the real physics of the problem. So since this is the basic CFD webinar, so I'm not going to talk about in finite volume or finite element methodologies, but here what I'm going to talk about is the finite difference schemes. That too, in this scheme we will have explicit methods and implicit method. In the next slide I will talk more about explicit and implicit method. Basically explicit methods are conditionally stable, and implicit methods are unconditionally, it's always stable. There should unconditionally stable, and this is conditionally stable. We should have some condition, some sort of condition that should impose on my scheme. Okay, so you can actually see that. So these are the nodal values where this is my generic nodal values uin, and before that you will have a lesser I-1 value, the spatial value, and n is the same at same time step I'm talking about, and this I+1 is the next spatial node, and at the same time I'm talking about. And in this particular explicit method, this next node computation will be affected by all the neighboring nodes over here. So basically this is my unknown. This particular thing is my unknown thing, which I'm going to seek what could be the value at my next time step, and which is to be known through the existing values at the neighboring nodes. That is what the idea behind this finite difference scheme is. Moreover, this finite difference scheme, since I have already talked about that this finite difference scheme is a mathematical construct of numerical computation. So in this particular scheme, the derivatives are approximated using Taylor series expansion. So this is just a mathematical construct. So Taylor has given this. We have some sort of in your textbook, you will find that your basically the neighboring nodes are actually evaluated with the help of neighboring nodes. That is how Taylor series expansion works. You can get it in any textbook, Anderson or Hoffman or any textbook, you can find this. So once I do the discretization, and I can write my unsteady and dissipation term in this following form. So again, I also want to talk few more on this particular FTCS scheme. So what is this FTCS? So FTCS is forward time and central space scheme. Again, there are several finite difference schemes methods which are there. In explicit method, there are finite, there are FTCS schemes, there are Richardson schemes, there are many more. And in implicit schemes, there are Crank-Nicholson methods, there are Lassonen methods. So implicit scheme, we will see it is unconditionally stable, and this particular FTCS is conditionally stable. This is how the researchers have found out through basically there is a concept called von Neumann stability criteria, through which basically the stability is being judged for a particular differential equation. So this FTCS scheme is basically conditionally stable. Why I am telling this? I'll let you know in the next step. So basically this particular equation, what I will do, I'll discretize in this form. So du by dt can be discretized as ui n plus 1 minus ui n. So basically at same node, I'm going forward in time. Your superscript is time. So I'm going forward in time. And in dissipation term, I'm going central in space. What does it mean? So centrally, I am discretizing it. Ui n at the same time step, right? Time step are same, n is same, but spatially I am going central differencing. Now, what the idea of explicit scheme is to write the unknown values in terms of all the known values. That is how explicitly we are going to write the equation. And this particular thing, mu times dt by dy square is called a number called diffusion number, and this has a large implication on the stability of the numerical scheme. So this the people have found out that through a von Neumann stability criterion, that the diffusion number should be less than 0.5 for this particular FTCS scheme, and then only your scheme would be stable. Otherwise, if your diffusion number is larger than 0.5, you will have numerical instability. We will actually look this numerical instability in our MATLAB program also, and which I'll do it in later slides. I'll show it in later slides. So this, okay, where are you? Yes. So far, any questions from any audience? Okay, if
not yet, not yet.
Okay,
So
not yet.
We will answer it.
Yeah, probably I'm self-explanatory so far. Okay. What I promised that I'll talk about explicit and implicit methods in slight detail, because it is crucial for our understanding for numerical computations as well. So in explicit method, we again told that we have already told that this is the unknown values at all the nodes are written explicitly with the known values of the nodes. Basically, this known values here, the first node. So so initially you will tell that, sir, where are my known values? So it can actually propagate from your boundary. So boundary, we have known values, and all these points have 0 values. So this is actually some sense it is known, and then we can march in time. When marching in time, we'll get towards the real solutions. And this, I already told that this may be unstable if d is greater than 0.5, and we'll look into our program also how this makes things unstable. Whereas in implicit, this is always stable, unconditionally always stable. With again, it is because of von Neumann criteria, which we're not going to cover in this particular basics of webinar. You can actually look into your textbooks. So in this implicit method, what we do, we will actually write the unknown values and the known values in this fashion. So basically, what is the difference? You can see the difference of discretizing the things here. What you see here, your so your unsteady term discretization is same, is exactly same, but your dissipation terms will have unknown time steps, unknown time dependent, but here it was known to us. So that is the key difference between these two sets of methods. So what it actually does, that you can actually write the unknown, these are my unknowns now. You can club this thing in left hand side, and this is my known value. Okay, now what we do, for I is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on till n, I can write actually n number of algebraic equations, right? We will have n number of algebraic equations. Now these algebraic equations can actually be clubbed into this matrix form, some ax is equal to b form, and then since these are unknowns, we can actually invert this and we can get the solution at one go. But here the iteration is must. Iteration is also here is there, but it is implicit in nature. Okay, and that makes the system stable. There is no need of choosing your diffusion number in particular fashion, but here you have to actually so this I missed it. So this diffusion number is actually in your hands. This is the way how you discretize your dt and dy, how small or how large your discrete spaces and discrete time are. So this is in your hand. So since this is your choice, you can actually make things stable or unstable by choosing the appropriate values of dt and dy here. But here it is not necessary in implicit method. So before moving into the actual coding of the Taylor-Coit equation, which we are going to code in MATLAB in due time, before that I want to tell you about the MATLAB basics, because they should be good that if you go first the MATLAB basics, since there is the audience are maybe or of several domains where they might not be knowing MATLAB. So what I feel that I should cover MATLAB basics first, and then I'll go to the step-by-step coding of the Taylor-Coit flow. So MATLAB is basically derived from this keyword matrix laboratory, and it is developed by MathWorks. So the math word and lab word are actually clubbed, and they are told that it is MATLAB. So this is based on matrix manipulation. So this is the idea behind the whole MATLAB thing. You will always be working in terms of matrix, arrays, and all sorts of things. Okay, unlike your C and your other softwares. So basically, this MATLAB is interpreter. Not, you can say it's kind of high level language. It's not low level language like machine learning language. It's kind of high level language, and it's kind of interpreter. That makes so the downside of this MATLAB is because it is an interpreter, so it actually consumes a little more time as compared to the C++ or C or the lower level machine languages. But the upper side is the MATLAB is having greater visualizing capabilities as compared to your lower level languages, and lots of built-in functions are there. And one more downside is this MATLAB software is proprietary. You need to buy it, unlike your Scilab and OpenFOAM, you can use freely. And there are open source. Since those are open source software, I would actually recommend those softwares over ANSYS or MATLAB. So Anirudh Kulkarni would be talking more about OpenFOAMs or open source softwares in the due course. Okay, this is how a typical generic interface of a MATLAB would look like. So I would suggest, if you guys have MATLAB, you can actually side by side open it. Unless if you don't have, no worries, I can actually open it in front of you. Let me open that. Before that, okay, sorry. Before that, let me talk about the interface here, and then I'll move into the MATLAB interface in my folder. So this particular, the upper side, let me. So this upper side thing is called the menu toolbar. This space is called the current folder file. You can see all your in which folder you are working in. Your all files will be shown here. This is your script file. You will write your script here in this particular region. This is your command window in which you can give the command. If you don't want to write the script, you can actually give the command over here. And actually, if you get some errors, it will throw here. Okay, and this right hand side, you will have workspace called workspace, where when you run the program, your actual variables are shown over here. Your variable values are shown here. So this is how a typical MATLAB interface would look like. So again, I'm going through the basics to. So let me open my MATLAB first. So this is how it looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, since this is introductory course on MATLAB, you can say in associate, which I'm going to connect with the CFD problem. So it's good that we can take some hands-on on this. So I've already told that all the things that we compute here is in the form of matrix. The first thing we are going to show here is how to make matrix. So let's suppose my capital A is some variable and I want to store a matrix in it. So I will write A is equal to capital bracket 1 space 2 1 space 3 semicolon 4 space 5 space 6 semicolon 7 space 8 space 9 bracket end, and when I put enter, it will throw me the value of in the matrix form here. So you can see in the workspace also I will have the variable A over here, which is actually you can, if I open it, you can see in the workspace as a variable 3 cross 3 matrix. It has been generated with elements.
Excuse me, sir. Actually, you are sharing only the PPT window now.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Let me share that. Let me share that. Okay, is it visible now?
Yes, sir, visible, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. So shall I go again?
Yes, it's fine, sir.
So let me do that again. So let me, okay, so this is, again, I can do that again. So what I will do, I will clear everything. So this is also a learning stage, you can say. So I can clear my variables as CLC. If I type CLC, your screen will clear. It will not clear a variable. So see, variables are still there. So for clearing the variables, you will have to tell clear all. So clear all. When I do that, all my variables have been omitted. There are no variables right now. So now I can start possessing my variables, such as A is equal to. So I'll 1 space 2 space 3 semicolon 4 space 5 space 6 7 space 8 space 9, and you can, if you hit enter, you'll get this particular 3 cross 3 matrix in this form. You can see your variables are noted here, and if you want to look, if you have to double click it, and you can see 3 cross 3 matrix has been generated. I'm not still talking about the scripts right now. I'm actually working in the command window. So the next thing is we can do actually make some vectors as well. Let's suppose I'll take some vector. B is equal to some vector. Let's suppose 1, 2, and 3, and this is my vector. So this is my vector C. 1 2 3. So I want to make, so this is basically a row vector, so I want to make a column vector. So what I do is B transpose I will do. Let's see what happens. So B is again so since I didn't declare my variable, so it stored in answer. So let me open this answer and you will get 1 2 3 as my row vector. Okay, now I want to transpose my so AA. I'll keep this thing as my new variable as A transpose. So you'll see the AA variable has now been generated with transposed value. You can actually make lots of other things. It's so open. I can actually get my eigenvalues. So EIG, if you type EIG AA, let's see what happens. You will get the eigenvalues. So these are my 3 eigenvalues. You can actually eigenvectors you can plot. You can see, or you can do all sorts of things. Let's suppose I want to add two matrices or 2 vectors. So let's see how can I can add. So I want to add, so A plus AA. These 2 are my matrices, and I want to add it. Let's see what happens. So it has been added element wise. Okay, I want to multiply two matrices A dot AA. This is my matrix multiplication. So this is my matrix multiplication, and this is not element by element. So this is basically the usual matrix multiplication. When I want to do element by element matrix multiplication, I would go by A dot star AA, and that would give my element by element multiplication. Okay, all sorts of things you can do in MATLAB here. So the next thing I want to talk about is okay. So I will move slightly step by step towards. Okay, Prasanna sir has raised a question. You can ask me if you want. Yes, Prasanna.
No problem. Continue.
Tell me, sir.
No question. Continue,
okay.
Sir. Continue.
Okay, what I am going to do, I am going to move ahead towards my real coding. So for that, whatever things I need, I will be showing it here. So I want to actually define my domain. So I can define my domain. So let me clear the variables. Clear all. So all things have been cleared. CLC. Okay. So now, I mean, I have my Y domain. Y domain. I want to define from 0 to some length, 0 to some length with 0.1 spacing 1. So let me hit enter and let's see what happens. So see, your domain has been discretized, domain has been created from 0 to 1 with spacing of 1 to 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 and so. So basically these things will be essential for actually writing the code for the query flow problem. So in that aspect, I will move ahead step by step. So another thing, there are strong inbuilt functions in it. You can actually specify. There is a function called linspace, linear spacing. So linear spacing, what it does is from 0 to 1. I want to go with. So this is restricted towards how many points? Let's suppose 9-10 points. But in this lin spacing, you can actually go 20 points or 50 points or so. Let's see what happens. See, you'll have 20 points YY. So in both ways, I mean, depending upon your choice, how you want to discretize your domain, you can actually go by several inbuilt functions there. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is sometimes I want my zeros matrix I want to define first in order to initialize my domain. Okay, so for that I will tell that, okay, this is my domain, y. I want to make a matrix zeros zeros 5, 5. So what it does, Basically, it will make 5x5 matrix with zeros elements in it. So see how powerful it is. So yeah, even writing this thing in your C programming would take a lot time, but here you are actually saving your time. Okay, this is so powerful. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is some sort of for loops or while loops. You can actually do some sort of for looping, and so for that I actually want to make some script. So for scripting, what I will do, I'll go from here. So this is my script, or you can go to new script. This is your new script. So all the scripts you want to start with is CLC semicolon clear all, so that all the leftover variables are cleared. So this is a kind of protocol that you every time you write a MATLAB code, you should do this first line: clear your variables, clear your screen, and close. So this is close all. If at all the there are some previous plots on it, so it will be closed. So what I'm going to do is I am going to make a for loop here. So this is easy. So let's suppose my x is equal to 0. I will initialize my x. So one more thing I want to talk about: when you are not giving, so let's suppose I'll write it here, x is equal to 0. So when I put it enter, it will throw me the values. When I put x is equal to 0 semicolon, it will not throw me values. It actually suppresses the upcoming thing. Okay, that is how it is done. So I want to suppress. I don't want to call write this thing here and here again. So I will suppress it. And second thing I want to tell you that you can actually so for all the codes, all the MATLAB codes or any code, it is actually customary that you should write the code so that other can understand. So in view of that, you can actually comment your suggestions here. So I can write initialize x. So this is actually commented. The program will not run this thing. Okay, program will run only x is equal to 0. So the next thing is I'll write for I is equal to 1 to 5. So basically what will happen, I will start from 1 and it will go step by step, one by one till 5, and it will do some operation. So what operation I need? I want to do some x is equal to x plus I want to add all my values, next coming values in x itself, and end. So let me run this command. So before running this command, it will ask you for saving it. So test1 save. Yes. So this is how your final value will come, right? And which is also evident in your so I have put, so you cannot see my PPT here. Okay, anyways, no worries. So next thing, next quick thing, I want to go for plotting. So this is next quick thing I want to do, plotting the variables. Let me share my PPT. So hope my PPT is very visible now. This is a simple 2D plot of a function sin t and cos t. I'm going to plot in front of you. Okay, so let's see how I can do it in MATLAB. Okay, I can write a new script here. So what I will do, I will first define my time domain. I'm going to plot y is equal to, so we are going to plot y is equal to sin t. Let's see how we are going to do. So these are essential to actually visualize your plots. So which will be essential for my real quite flow programming. So y is equal to sine t that I want to plot. This is my comment. Okay. So I'll start initializing. So t, this is my time. I'm going to initialize in this manner. T is equal to 0 to, I want to go at every 0.1 steps till 2 times pi. So this pi is having the inbuilt function. I can show you here pi. When I write pi, I enter, it will throw me actual pi, irrational pi value. Okay, so this is how my time domain has been defined. So let me run this code so far. What happens? Let's see. So see, t has been defined now with 1 cross 63 variables in it, and which is something like this from 1 to 2 pi. 2 pi is something 6.2. So that has been defined. Okay. Next thing I want to write my function. Okay. So y is equal to sine of t. I can write. Okay. So let me run it again. So let's see what happens. Y is equal to, again, the corresponding function value has been generated based on your function, whatever function you have chosen. Now I want to plot it. For plotting, you need to write figure 1 semicolon, and there is a inbuilt function called plot t comma y comma. So this is a usual notation. This is the usual argument we will write. Plot first x-axis, then y-axis, and then you want to provide some color to it. So let's suppose I want to make it a blue. So blue means you have to do this notation: colon, sorry, not colon, I'm sorry, apostrophe b apostrophe close and bracket close. So this is how you are going to plot your y is equal to sine t. Let's see what happens. Let me run the code. So see, your plot has been generated with, this is a typical sine t plot from 0 to 2 pi. Now what I want to do, I want to plot y is equal to cos t on top of it. So on top of it, you need to hold your plot. This is the command you should write: hold on, semicolon. You will tell that x is equal to cos of some t, right? Then what you do, plot, hold on has been will dominate this plot because everything will be holded on. Plot again t comma x comma, I want to make it in the red plot. So R subscript you should use. So you can go, actually you can anytime you can, if you don't know anything, you just type help. Let's see, help plot. So MATLAB will open a dialog box in which you will have the dot plot. If you click over it, your browser will open. So all the information you will find it here: how to plot, what color, and everything, how to handle it. All those things you will get here. Whenever you stuck, you just write help and help and the keyword. Okay. Let's see whether I can plot it or not. Let me run this command. See, so this is your yes,
Dr. Ravi.
tell me.
I think you have shared the, let's say, the particular screen. So when you say plotting the any graph, it is not coming in your screen as such.
So how?
Yeah. So what you need to do is
new sharing.
Just unshare once. Yeah, just unshare once.
Stop sharing. Tell me.
And then yes. And now if you click on share screen, I think there is an option, just share the screen at the top.
Show all
somewhere
windows.
That is the default. I think just check, there is a screen word which is there in that.
So it's not showing actually. For me, it's not showing, unfortunately.
On the right hand side, now you have an option, sir, additional add in case.
Sir, actually, instead of sharing a particular window, you can share the entire screen share.
But for me, it's not coming actually. I don't know why.
No
So is
issue,
it
just
visible
take a
now?
look.
Is
Because,
it visible now? All the screen?
no, I think it is different, something else. Yeah, I think that was your desktop as such.
As such, okay, let's stop. Let me do it
Yeah,
again.
so that
Let
only
me do
you
it
need to
again.
share.
So are you able to see my whole screen now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And now can you go to the MATLAB, let's say?
Sorry. Sorry. Share screen. So what I will do, I will actually So are you able to see my whole screen or my sticky
whole
notes?
screen.
Full screen?
Sticky
Okay,
notes,
thanks.
sticky notes.
Only sticky notes? Okay.
Yeah.
So that is the problem. I don't know what's happening. Or maybe
So,
this.
There's one option in the next tab on when you share the screen. In the next tab, you have additional file to be additional things will be there. In that, you have an option to share a part of a screen also.
Advanced
so
files.
advanced. Yeah, advanced.
Advanced.
Yes,
Content
here
from
you can
second
see.
camera, music. No, sir, I'm not able to see that.
Okay, so continue with your part. Okay, sir, no problem then.
Okay.
And then just toggle that figure window to the MATLAB only. Then you can able to see that. Toggle the figure window to the MATLAB. It is visible in that.
Okay. So I will toggle that in MATLAB. Okay,
Yeah,
so that
yeah,
you can
yeah,
see that.
yeah,
Okay, I got
yeah.
it. Got it. Okay. Thank you for the suggestion. So let me toggle that. Yes.
Yeah. Now you.
So is it visible now?
No, it's visible.
Okay, thank you. I don't know what's happening.
No problem, sir.
Okay, so this is my code which I have run. Okay, when I run that, you can actually let me toggle that again. So this is what your this is your sine plot with blue and cos plot is with red. Okay, so since I have already told that this is a great tool for visualization, let me go through one step ahead and let me plot things in 3 dimensions. So for 3 dimension, let me quickly do the things like t is equal to 0. Again, I want to, t has already been specified. What I am going to do, I am going to make a mesh grid plot. I'm not going to go into details, but you can actually find it out. Just I want to let you guys know that how powerful the visualization of this MATLAB is in 3D as well. Mesh grid and t comma t. I'll not go into the details of this. You can actually find it out, and I'll write a is equal to sine of capital X plus cos of capital Y and surf a x comma y. Let me see what happens, and I will name it as figure 2. And if I okay, one more powerful thing I want to tell you guys that if you don't want to run any particular command, you can actually make things Control R. You can comment all along in one shot. But t I need t variable actually. So t is okay. Then I can run this. Okay. Now let me dock this. So see. So this particular by revolving around it. So basically, it's a surface that I've created in three-dimensional domain, right? Okay, so let me drop this thing and let me move ahead towards the real problem that I'm going to code it in front of you. So if you guys have MATLAB with you, you can actually do side-by-side coding with me. So I'm going to close this window, and in Untitled 3, what I'm going to write. So let me go again to the problem once again. So I'm going to do the MATLAB coding for the quet flow, and quet flow has unsteady term and the steady term, the dissipation term. I'm going to use explicit finite difference scheme, and I'll write my usual first line. Then I'll go start defining my variables and fluid properties. So I'm going to define my fluid property mu first. So mu is equal to 2.17 e raised to the power minus 4. That is how it defines. So I'm going to write kinematic viscosity. Okay, and let me define my domain L, length, total length, sorry, length or H to be precise. L is equal to the spacing between the two plates. So since I have not suppressed it here, there is a there is some error. So I need to suppress it. So I'm going to suppress it with semicolon. Then it will go away. So L is equal to 0.04, and that suppress it. And this is my spacing between the plates. Okay. Okay. I didn't told you about the algorithm what I'm going to use it, but in the subsequent steps you will get to know that how things are moving. Let me first define my variables. L is equal to this. Now I'm going to discretize my L domain as dy with some spatial discretization values. So I'm going to discretize in this particular value. I'm going to discretize at particular 0.001 meters. So this is in meters, and this is in meters square per second, if I'm not wrong. Kinematic viscosity. Dy is in, again, the discretization in y in meters. You can write. Now you are going to define your number of nodes. How many number of nodes you will have. So you will get by dividing from L to dy and adding 1 to it. So it will give you the total number of nodes that will be generated. So this is my number of nodes. Okay, now I'm going to define my domain, y domain, as y is equal to lin space. I've already defined that I have to go from 0 to L, capital L, spacing kitna hai, comma, number of points. I've already told that I am this much number of points I want to take my nodes. Okay, so this is my domain. So hopefully the font size is clear enough for you guys, or should I increase the size of the font? Is it visible?
Visible, sir, visible.
Okay, thank you. Test 3. I've saved it in test 3 manner. Okay, so the next thing is, so I'm already running out of time, but yeah, I can do it quickly. So dt is equal to 0.002 I have chosen. So the reason to choose this particular dt is because this dy and dt will be decided by you, and this will make your diffusion number, and this diffusion number actually tells your stability criteria. So this is important. And if I'll tell you in my program while iterating it, that if you change this number, your things will go from stable solution to unstable solution in a while. I'll tell you. So this is your time discretization. Okay. Next thing I want to specify is my variable. So what variable dependent variable you are looking for. So my u is my dependent variable, and I will choose u new because I am going to iterate it with old solution and give the solution back to the new thing. So that u new, I will take my variable u new as zeros, capital N, comma 1. Okay, so far let me run this code and let's see what happens. See, in the right, you can see dt has been defined, dy has been defined, l new, n, and u new has been defined now. So u new is basically I have made an array. So n cross 1 matrix has been generated. So this is n cross 1. So n means, so the n is 41. So 41 cross 1 has been generated. Okay, next thing is write the boundary conditions. Boundary conditions, I will write it here. So boundary conditions means top plate. So u new. So this particular u new, the top plate, sorry, bottom plate will have 0 index. Okay, first index, sorry. So this will have the u velocity, and the last node will have 0 velocity. That should be fixed. So that I'm going to define now. U underscore new is equal to 40. I fixed it. That is my boundary condition all the time. So u underscore new is equal to 0. Sorry, I'm really sorry. U new, I have to define my top node. So that is my u1. I am calling my first element in the column, and this is my nth element I am calling as 0. So any doubt so far? Okay, let me run this code and let me see what happens with u new. So u new has been, see, my first element has been replaced by 40. That is my boundary condition all the time, and the last node is actually 0, and all the intermediate nodes are 0 right now. So we are going to iterate the values at intermediate nodes. That is my idea. So from 2 to basically n minus 1, from 2 to n minus 1, I am going to iterate I am going to march in time for all the nodes. So that is my philosophy behind this particular computation. So we will do it now. Okay, so first I'll define my iteration variable. I will initialize my iteration variable. Iteration initialization. So this is my, let's suppose you can take anything. You can start with 0. Okay, my error. Let me tell you, will my philosophy of moving out from a loop is such that my error should be small enough from some tolerance value. That is my philosophy. Okay, so I'll choose my error as some bigger number. Let's suppose 1, and I'll tell my tolerance epsilon is equal to some small number, and I'll tell 1. So this is basically 10 raised to the power minus 3. Sorry. So this is how my tolerance I have decided, and I'll tell that keep on iterating things. Whenever error is less than epsilon, you get out of from the loop. So that is my philosophy of doing the iteration. Okay, now I'll start with my while loop. While I'll tell the statement, since while error is greater than epsilon, you keep on doing this. Once this is lesser than, then you come out of it. Okay, that is my ideology. Okay, now I will keep a track of my iteration also. ITER is equal to ITER plus 1. I'll keep on. I'll not suppress it because it will show my iteration, number of iteration over here without suppression. If I separate it, it will not be shown. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to replace my old values of u with the new values. So old value u is equal to u underscore new. Okay, now I will write my internal node computations. Now internal node computation or iteration will come here. So this is comment. So I'll tell that for. So how can I call all my nodes? I can make a for loop. Okay. So for I is equal to 2 to n minus 1. That is how my internal loads are defined. I have shown you. See, 2 to n minus 1, and I'm going to iterate it, and the boundary condition will be still the same all the time. So these nodal values I am going to write with this particular expression. Let me tell you. Let me go back to the slide once again. Let me to tell you what I am doing exactly here. Okay, let me share the slide. Sorry, first. Okay, so basically I am going to iterate. I'm going to iterate ui at all the nodes next time step with these values. Okay, this right hand side, and this expression I'm going to put it there, and which is going to be iterated at intermediate node. Okay, so let me do that again. MATLAB again. Share. So I will write u underscore new. I will put index I. I'm going to save my things in ith value. Ui new is equal to u of I. So basically, whenever I'm telling u1 means first element, u2 is second element. This is telling my ith element. Okay, ui plus new times dt, which I have already defined, divided by dy times dy. So this is basically your diffusion number, right? This is your diffusion number, and we'll see while okay, times. I'm going to write bracket u I plus 1 minus 2 times ui, the same node I'm referring, plus, hope I'm not boring you guys. Hope this is engaging so far. And bracket close. Okay. So this is how I have defined my internal nodes. Okay, now I'm going to define my error criteria. Error criteria will be max of absolute value of, I'll tell you why I've done this, u underscore u, sorry, not underscore, u minus u underscore new. So the reason being, so this there are two things. So since this is a vector, so you are going to make a judgment of what error you are going to, what is your error criteria. Okay, so error means convergence. Towards convergence, I am going towards step towards convergence. So if it is small enough, then we are reaching towards the convergence solution. So u new minus u is basically the vector thing, and absolute. So vector minus vector, you will have the vector thing, and then the absolute value you will take, and the maximum value of those subtracting vectors will have the error value. So that is how I define my error value. Then I'm going to define my figure 1. Okay, let me end my loop. Okay, I'm sorry, I've not ended my for loop. Sorry. So this have been done. After that, I am decide my error figure, and then plot. I've already told how plot works. U underscore new, and within 4 to 5 minutes you will see how the plot looks like for the transient case of the Taylor-Coit flow. U new. I'm going to define. I'm going to call all my rows in one shot. So this is how you define all. Sorry. I don't know what happens. Let me close this thing and let me open that again. Sorry.
What happened, sir?
The MATLAB crashed. My MATLAB crashed actually. So
Okay.
I'm opening it. So let's wait for 1 minute.
Otherwise, just share your PPTs. I think you have already prepared that program.
Okay. So let me go through that quickly.
Yeah,
It's
because
already done actually.
okay. Have you saved that, sir?
Yes, I have saved that.
Okay.
Okay, this one is the thing I'm talking about, plot new, and my Y domain. I've already defined it. I will keep my things as O. This is how you define your markers. Your plot will look more appealing. Face marker, face color. With blue color, I want. Okay, and then bracket close, and then I can go for end. Okay, now I can run this particular program. Let's see. Okay. Okay, but the thing is, you guys will not be able to see my. Let me dock that. So, are you able to see that?
Yes.
Okay. So now what thing is? So it started. All the fluid molecules are at 40 here, at the bottom plate, and all the fluid molecule at top plate is 0 rest, and rest is your transient solution are plotting on top of it. And this is how your transient solution would look like. So let me go through. Let me stop this and let me go through my PPT again. Yes. Are you guys able to see my PPT?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this is the graphics that we will get for a typical generic Taylor-Coit flow for a simple case such that is your pressure is neglected and it's one dimension, and this is how it will look like transiently. And this is what I've promised you that I will show that. I'll show more of animations and plots. So you can see that how easily you can actually analyze any fluid flow phenomena through the help of MATLAB just by doing some numerical computation. Okay, next thing I told that I will talk about the wave propagation. Again, this wave propagation is kind of a toy problem, you can say. You will have a governing equation, something like this. We're not going to, since I don't have much time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to not going to go into the details of the analytical solution of it. So this wave propagation, in reality, where you can find is you can actually a taut string can be plugged, and you can see how your plugged disturbance can propagate in time and space. That is what I'm intending to find through CFD. This is one example. Another example could be in your still lake or in your river, which is still, and you throw the stone, and you will have some sort of perturbation in this sinusoidal form, initial perturbation, and how this perturbation would either dissipate with time or would convect and dissipate both, depending upon your model equation. So your model equation will have unsteady term, it will have convection term, this term is the convection term, and this is the dissipation term. And all these terms have a specific impact on the solution of the problem. Again, I would go by the forward time and central space discretization method, again explicit in nature. So I will take up 3 different cases here, in which I will ignore my dissipation term, and I'll tell that this particular equation is my only convection term. I'll throw away my convection term, and I'll tell that this particular model equation is my only diffusion equation. And I also want to seek the solution, the time dependent and space dependent, spatio-temporal dependent. It's kind of problem it is, and I want to seek both convection and diffusion. I want to see in what would happen to that wave. So when I code that in the similar fashion, what I've shown you here, I'm also going to share these codes with you guys, so that you can actually do it as a homework or as a practice for you guys to get more comfortable with this MATLAB codes. So this is how my graphics would look like. At the left end, you can see if I model the equation which is having only diffusion term, the waves just dissipates, only diffusion happens. The second case where I have dropped out my diffusion term, the only convection is happening. There is no diffusion is happening in this case, particular blue case. And in the rightmost thing, you will have both convection. The wave is going to propagate, as well as the diffusion is happening. Its amplitude is decreasing. Okay. Before that, I didn't show you that how my diffusion number is actually depends upon my diffusion number actually governs my so let me do that again quickly by changing the diffusion number. Let's see what happens. So what I'm going to do here, are you able to see my MATLAB?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to increase my dt. Just by increasing the dt, the allowable diffusion number has been increased my threshold limit. So now when I run it, let's see what happens. So this is what is happening. Your scheme is no more stable. You will have numerical instability. You cannot find the solution. So this is the precautionary measure you should take when you do the explicit scheme finite difference method. If you are going for this, whenever you are going for implicit scheme, this diffusion number doesn't matter for you, and it is unconditionally stable all the time. So that is what I was intending to tell you guys. Okay, so let me go back to my PPT again. Okay, this is my last slide. So in concluding remarks, I could say that the basics, I've already talked about the basic problems here, one-dimensional problems here, and you can actually go solve the full Navier-Stokes equation in 3-dimensional domain or any complex domain, but it would be cumbersome or it would be time consuming. But so what I suggest that if you want to address the full Navier-Stokes equation, MATLAB would not be a good tool. Either you go for some open source software such as OpenFOAM, Scilabs, and all those things. I would highly recommend doing that. Okay. Obviously, this is a great tool for engineering and numerical computation because this is having a great visualization, and with ease you can do all sorts of things. You will have n number of inbuilt functions. Again, the downside is this is a proprietary software. It can be slow in intense computations. you can go for open forms and Scilabs, because in open form what you will have the flexibility that you will have inbuilt uh, uh, piezo algorithms or simple algorithms that is available to you in open source manner. So yes, uh, so these are my references, and I would like to tell you that these first two books I would highly recommend you if you guys want to do some more complex problems of fluid mechanics through MATLAB. These first two um, textbooks are highly recommended for you. And the third and fourth book, uh, Hoffman and Anderson, would be good for your basics of CFD understanding. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for such an informative session.
Okay, thanks.
So now a question and answer session will be taken up.
Yes.
So let's have some. So the questions are: so what about the differentiation equation solvers?
Let me open my 1 minute, sir. Chats. Can you explain me once again?
The question is, what about differentiation equations solvers?
No, I didn't get, and this is not a well posed question, it seems. I
So,
didn't get it actually. Can you ask me directly if you have?
So, Mr. Somesh Saraswat, so if you want to ask, you can directly ask. So, okay.
What I can understand from this question is, so yes, there are some MATLAB tools available there. PD solvers are inbuilt solvers are there, but it's always good that you should scratch from code. That is what my
yes, I think so. I think one of I think Mr. have answered it. OD45. So I think somebody he's asking about differential equation solver. I hope so. So they will be. Fine. Yeah, so you can ask. You
so
can
the thing is, right now the problem I have taken up is not the ordinary differential equation. It is the partial differential equation. So the partial differential equations, there are no dedicated tools. That is why you should go for scratch coding. If you have ordinary differential equation, you can actually use OD45, OD51, 54, all those OD with inbuilt solvers are there. Yes, you can do that, but that is applicable for ordinary differential equations only. Yes.
Okay. So next is how to plot figure from data derived from EES.
Okay. Engineering solver, that is what you are talking about. I can tell you that you can actually export the data, the Excel data from in the MATLAB. Let me show you that if you guys can have some time. There is some import function that is there. Let me. So I also do that every time. You can, if you feel something you don't know, you can Google things, export Excel files in MATLAB. To do that, straight away you'll get some functions, and you can actually call the Excel, and those Excel data will actually come in place of your rows and columns, and it will make a proper matrix. So yes, this is the right table. Right table is the correct tool or inbuilt function that I'm talking about. You can do that. You can actually do that. You can actually export all sorts of Excel data, all sorts of ES data. You can actually call.
Okay. So one more question is there. Is parallel programming of code can be done in MATLAB? Parallel programming? If yes, how we can do that?
Yes, it can be done. I cannot comment it right away, but it can be done.
Which language we can use in MATLAB? Is there any other language other than MATLAB code, or if you can suggest on parallel programming?
No, in MATLAB itself, you will have. So I cannot comment it right now. Maybe I can. What I can do, I can email you.
Okay.
Regarding this later.
Okay.
Because I don't have expertise in parallel programming in MATLAB.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So next question is, can you explain the number of nodes in the previous code?
Okay. So in this here, so I have my hyperbolic wave itself, and let me run that and let me see how many codes I have. Number of nodes is 41 again. 41.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm really sorry. This is 401
Okay.
for this particular program. For the last program you are talking about, this program, wave propagation. Again, it's up to you. Say it's your open
For the
thing.
Cortex flow. For the Cortex flow.
For the code flow, it was.
Yes.
Let me go back there and let me go back again to the MATLAB and test. So the number of nodes here, if I would run, let's see. So the number of nodes is 41 itself. So that is why, okay, yeah, that is why you will have this the number of nodes I've chosen is only 41. If you go for higher one, yes, you can get more continuous results, but yeah, again, your computation time will move again. Yes.
Actually, the participant wants to know the significance of that nodes actually.
Significance.
So
okay.
Number of nodes. Yeah. How number
So
of
the
nodes
nodes.
in the previous
Okay,
case,
nodes.
they
So
want to
see.
know the
Yes, I got your question. See, you are actually looking for the continuous solutions. Okay, basically your sine x is a continuous function, but in discretize, when you discretize it, you cannot have continuous solutions. So what you have is discrete node points or discrete spaces where you can actually have the variable values only, and lower the value of your discretization, the more towards it to the continuous solution. That is what my philosophy would be. Larger the number of points, larger the solution tend towards the continuous solution. So again, it's a both way. It's a trade-off between computation cost and the number of time that you are incurring.
So in other words, you can say so the accuracy, no, sir? Yeah. So I think, sir, that's all for the question and answer session. Or okay, one question is there. MATLAB is a higher level language and the lower level. Okay,
yes,
so
yes.
that is
MATLAB is a higher level language,
yeah.
kind of, and C is lower level language. That is why C actually interprets quickly with computers, but MATLAB takes time. So that is why the computation time is high, which you will not it will not occur in your OpenFOAM and other open source softwares, because they are based on C and Fortran.
Yes, sir. So I think that's all for this question answer session. So if still anybody having any doubt, you may directly ask to the expert.
Okay, then.
So then, okay.
Thank you.
So yes, sir. So I need next Mr. Aril Kulkarni. So you can share your screen, sir.
Okay. Should we start the session now, or we can start at 4? I don't know.
So you, Anirudh sir, you are not very less audible.
Hello.
We can continue, sir. Else we can also continue if you.
Okay.
If you,
yes, it is